What is going on, amazing gardeners? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about seed starting, and I'm going to be sharing with you guys some tips and tricks on how to have the most success on germination. So let's get to it, all right guys? So the first thing I want to talk about is seeds. Seed quality matters. Believe it or not, seeds do have a shelf life. Now, if they are about 1 to 2 years old, you're probably okay. Once the seed becomes 3, 4, 5 years old, the shell becomes hard. And what that does is that when you are planting the seeds, it takes a little bit longer for it to absorb oxygen and water. So if you do want to have the highest chance of germination, I do recommend getting yourself high quality seeds or fresh seeds. Don't use old seeds, all right guys? And now that takes us to our next point, and that would be using the right soil. You do want something that is light, fluffy, and soft, so that way when the seeds germinate, the little plant does have an easier time poking through the soil, you know? Because if your soil is too dense and thick, it won't be able to penetrate through, and that's gonna kill your plant. That's a waste of seed, you know? What I recommend to make it easier for you guys is just getting a seed starting mix. These potting mix is mostly peat moss and perlite. Peat moss is a light fluffy material, which is fantastic, of course. And perlite, what that does is it improves the drainage of the soil. So that way you don't cause any type of too much water retention. That way it limits your chance of having root rot from overwatering. Now, not only with the starting mix, I do recommend getting yourself some vermiculite. So vermiculite is similar to perlite, except what vermiculite does is that it retains moisture. And by retaining some moisture in your soil, it does help retain some nutrients as well too for the roots to absorb. So that way your roots can become stronger and become more developed. So what you can do is you can mix the two together and then use it as a mix for your seeds. Let's go ahead and try this open. Let's try this open as well too. So next we have our trays. I got these trays from Home Depot. It only cost me about 10 bucks. There are 50 cells. The nice thing about these trays is that they have little holes at the bottom of each of them, so that way it does improve with the drainage, so that way you don't cause any type of root rot. And then later on, when you are ready to transplant the seedlings, you can just take something and poke under it, and then that way you can get those little cubes out to transplant over to the next bigger pot. So very convenient, if you ask me. Now to prepare your cells, just go ahead and take your starting mix and just pour it over a little bit like this. Go ahead and spread them out. That way they are pretty much even. A little more on this side over here. You can see by the texture of the potting mix, it's very fluffy. You see that it breaks up, it doesn't clump up or anything. So this is fantastic for starting your seeds, and that way it can poke through the soil with no problem at all. Next, we go ahead and put the vermiculite on top. Some people prefer to mix it in. I do like to put it on top, so that way it is close to the seed. So that way when the roots start popping out, it does have that moisture right next to the root for it to start absorbing right away. Next, we get to talk about this little toy right here. And you're probably wondering, what the heck is that thing? Why is he holding a bottle cap with a floss glued to it, you know? And surprisingly, I learned this trick from an old lady that is a professional gardener. And what it does is that the bottle cap height is the perfect depth for you to sow your seeds. So let me demonstrate what this is all about. So you see with each cell, you can take this, you press it down, and look at that. Now you have even heights for all your cells for you to put your seeds in. It's pretty amazing. It's very convenient. You don't have to get your hands dirty at all. You just press down, make perfect little holes for your seeds. Isn't that cool, guys? All right, guys, so after you get your soil and everything ready, your next step is not to put your seeds in yet. What you want to do is you want to make sure you soak the soil. So that way when you do put the seed on the soil, it has moisture contact right away. You don't want to put seeds on a dry soil, because once you cover it up with the top layer of soil, then you start watering from the top. The bottom might not be sufficiently wet, you know, for it to germinate properly. Let me stand up for this. Let's go ahead and soak the soil up a little bit. Seems like the watering wash away the holes, so I probably should have saved this step for after you soak your soil. But easy enough. This thing is very convenient, so you can just go ahead and make your holes again with no problem. And now we go into the seed step, all right guys? When sowing seed, I would recommend putting 2 seeds per cell, so that way it does increase the chance of germination. If they both germinate, you can just snip one away, so that way they don't compete for nutrients or anything. That way you do have more plants and everything. Now, if you do put 3 seeds in a cell, don't worry about it. You can always thin them out later on. So you can see I am growing a lot of different varieties of tomatoes. Roma tomato, honeycomb, hybrid tomatoes, sweetie tomatoes, and big pink hybrids. And a lot of cucumbers too, because I do like a lot of cucumbers. Now the seeds are in. Now I just want to cover it up with another soft layer of some seeding soil, basically. Seeds are all covered up, and now let's go on to the next step. All right, you want to make sure your soil, the top layer, stays moist all the time, so that way your seeds can germinate. I'm using a misting water bottle because it's not very powerful, so it doesn't shoot like a jet stream of water into the soil and displace the seeds. So you see right here, see that it is just making the layer on top moist, and it's very nice. Here's a closer view. You can see that with it misting the water, you're not damaging or pushing the soil in any type of direction. And now that the soil is watered and moist, what you can do now is that you can put a layer of cardboard over it to cover it up. That way it doesn't lose any type of moisture. This kit right here, oh, let me get this. Nice. This thing has a cap. Or I can close it up, store it somewhere away from sunlight. You don't want the heat pounding on it to cause it to lose any type of moisture or anything. And now your job is just to make sure the soil is moist all the time, so that way it germinates. And once it germinates, you want to put it in sunlight, so that way it can start getting energy from the sun and start growing. Or if you are in a colder weather, you can use a grow light and keep them indoors, just to keep them safe from any type of frost or anything, if you're still getting frost, of course. But if you're in a warmer climate, go ahead and keep them outside, and you should be okay after they germinate. All right? All right, guys, if you found that video informative, please leave a like, subscribe, and remember, guys, take it easy.